Hello and welcome to a live broadcast from Yale University. I'm Eric Gershon. Human intelligence takes many forms. One of these is emotional intelligence, the ability of people to understand, use, and manage their emotions. Yale is a pioneer in the study of this aspect of human psychology, and we're fortunate to have with us today two of the field's foremost scholars, as well as an important new partner in Yale's research program. Peter Salovey is Chris Argyris Professor of Psychology and President-elect of Yale University. The author of hundreds of research papers and more than a dozen books, he is a central figure in the development of emotional intelligence as a concept and field of study. His 1990 paper, Emotional Intelligence, co-authored with John D. Mayer, is a landmark in the literature. Psychologist Mark Brackett, director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence and a widely published scholar, is co-creator of the Ruler approach to social and emotional learning. This approach fosters the development and social and emotional skills in children of all ages, as well as in their mentors and families. From the Marcelino Botín Foundation in Spain, we're pleased to have Inigo Sáenz de Miera Cadenas. He is General Director of the Foundation, which works to mitigate poverty and promote social development in Cantabria, a region on Spain's north coast. The Foundation and Yale will undertake a collaborative research about the roles of art and creativity in developing emotional skills. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us today to talk about emotional intelligence and some of the details of your exciting plans together. Peter, let me start with you and ask you, if you would, to define emotional intelligence. What is it? How do we identify it? And why is it important to measure?
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning. Let's start with an assumption that we make. And that assumption is that we have an emotional system because it provides us with information. So emotional intelligence essentially is the ability to access and use that information, right? To take advantage of our emotions in thinking and in motivating behavior. Now, more particularly, we think of emotional intelligence as a set of skills. And it's a set of skills that concern the use of this emotional information. And when we look at emotional intelligence, we cluster those skills along four dimensions. The first set of skills concerns the ability to identify emotions in oneself or in other people. So this might include understanding what you're feeling, my ability to look in your face and see your expression and get some sense of how you might be feeling. The cues might be verbal, they might be nonverbal. Second dimension of emotional intelligence concerns understanding emotions. So how they change over time, how they might blend together. In particular, how to use language to describe them. Third area of emotional intelligence involves using our emotions. So how do I harness my emotions or the information provided by emotions and use it to guide the making of a decision, the solving of a problem, or particularly relevant for today's conversation, the production of something creative, a creative act. Finally, we're interested in the regulation or management of emotions. So my ability to manage my own feelings, calm myself down, cheer myself up, psych myself up, but also my ability to manage the emotions of another person. So I see that you are anxious today and I do something that helps you calm down. Or I am speaking to an audience over the television and I am trying to figure out a way to engage them, to make them more interested. Right? That's an attempt to manage their emotions. So again, emotional intelligence for us is a set of skills having to do with using the information that is part of an emotional experience, and to do that by accurately identifying emotions, understanding them and understanding the language we use to describe them, using them in thinking and in motivating behavior, and then regulating them in oneself and in others.
Mark, if you would elaborate a little bit on how you go about measuring emotions and how you use those measurements to generate some effect.
Sure. So, as Peter mentioned, the model that he and Jack Mayer developed was called the ability model of emotional intelligence, which means that we think of emotional intelligence as a real intelligence, and therefore try to measure it as such. What that means specifically is that we take a performance-based approach. More specifically, we want to know how people reason with and about their emotions versus what they think about their emotional life. And we've done a lot of research to show that the performance-based assessment seems to work the best. What that means is that, for example, in the first branch of emotional intelligence, in perceiving emotions and others, people are given actual facial expressions to code. And so it's how much emotion is present or not present in a face. For the using emotions, we ask them questions to consider that, you know, if you're in this state, emotion state, and you're going to do this kind of activity, is that conducive to that or not? For understanding of emotion, we're testing people's actual emotion vocabulary. And for their ability to regulate emotions, we use situation judgment tasks, which are scenarios that people have to think about and then generate effectiveness or rankings on effectiveness for different response options.
Maybe what's most important is that over the last 10 years or so since these measures began to be developed, we've done a variety of research projects in workplaces, in schools, with individuals interacting with each other, in task groups with business school students, many other kinds of projects where we measure these skills using a tool called the Mesquite, which is a test of emotional intelligence. Again, operationalized as a set of abilities. And we try to show that one's scores on this test predict important outcomes in each of those environments. And in the best studies, I think, show that emotional intelligence scores predict outcomes that are important over and above standard intelligence or the kinds of personality traits that are typically measured in psychological studies. And at this point, I think we've been able to do that in a way that's fairly convincing, that suggests that we are measuring something new and different, measuring it with some reliability, meaning with stability over time, and that it is valid. That is, that it predicts an important outcome in ways that we couldn't predict it before.
Yeah, so when you think about the theory of emotional intelligence, we're interested in how are these skills helping people live better lives.
And perhaps, Inigo, you could tell us a little bit about the work that Yale and Botin will be doing together.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eric. Thank you very much, Mark and Peter. And I also want to thank the people that are following us from Santander, in this small city in the north of Spain. This project has to do with the social aim of the most important project of the history of the Botin Foundation. It's the Botin Center, one also of the most important art and cultural projects in Spain. The Botin Center is going to be an art center. It's going to be part of the international circuit of world-class art centers. It's going to be obviously the main meeting point in the very center of Santander to fertilize with art and culture the city life. But it also is going to be a place to awake creativity through arts. It's going to be a place that is going to use arts to generate, to help to manage, as Peter and Mark were saying, emotions in a way that it awakes, it unblocks our capacity of creating. The capacity of creating that we really need in Spain and in Europe at the moment, because we are in a moment in which it is clear that we need to find new ways of doing new things. And this is what I said, that this is one of the main elements of the social vocation of the art center. We are going to use visual arts mainly, because it's going to be an art center, theater, literature, dance, cinema, to to awake the creativity, as I said, of children, youth, and also adults in their daily life, in their personal life, and also in their professional life. No? With Yale, I think that we are going to bring together a long experience that Yale has, obviously. Peter Salovey, your new president, is the main reference in the work in this field. Also the experience in the foundation, because we have been also working in social and emotional intelligence for the last 10 years with a program which is called Educación Responsable, that has things to do with the rural program, no? And bringing together this experience, and with the wonderful team that Mark leads in the Social and Emotional Intelligence Center in Yale, we really believe that the Botin Center can become the leading institution in the world to awake creativity through arts, using the arts. This is what it's all about, no? I would say.
In just a minute, we're going to take some questions from some journalists in Spain following the broadcast. But Mark, if you would follow up just briefly and talk a little bit about how the arts, what it is about the arts that seems to be useful for awakening creativity.
Sure.
I think a lot of people think of arts as the product of creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we come at it from very different directions, you know, in the type of research we do. But you can imagine that, you know, being in a place like the Botin Center where there are different types of art, how that can awaken the creativity in a person, how you can start looking at things from different perspectives, how you can ask questions about the art that help people to sort of reflect deeper in terms of what emotions do you think are being experienced in this piece of art? What do you think the artist him or herself was feeling when he or she was creating this piece of art? So there are lots of different ways that you can use art to help create more creative people.
And the great thing about art is whether it's music, whether it's theater, whether it's dance, whether it's the visual arts, is it allows you to have an emotional experience in a safe context. Mm-hmm. You can feel fear, you could feel anger, you could feel great joy, happiness, you can feel sorrow. You can have that very human experience, but you can have it in a kind of contained and safe way. You can feel what it means fundamentally to be human, and yet it can have a beginning and a middle and an end, and then one can move on. And I really think part of the role of the arts, not the only role, but one of the roles that the arts play in our lives, is to give us the opportunity to experience the broad array of human feelings, but to do that in a manner that is essentially a safe one.
I think that we all have the experience of how the arts transmit us emotions and help us to generate. I mean, what happens with music, with a different kind of music that you can listen to, or when you go to the cinema or to the theater, no? So the thing is that let's use arts, let's use music to promote in you the kind of emotions that are needed for you to be creative.
Yeah.
No, we were speaking once, I think, the blue paintings of Picasso. What did you feel when you faced them? I always remember this film from Woody Allen saying after the opera, no, every time I listen to Wagner, I want to invade Poland. This is the bad way, no? But how do we feel when we face art, when art really manages to connect us? This is what we want to explore. It's something that happens in a natural way, but we really think that we can systemize, we can decompose this role of emotions in creativity, and then to find the way to use different kind of arts to generate these emotions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Gentlemen, we're going to take some questions from the journalists. This one comes from Elisa from El País. She asks, she posits that some people believe school hinders creativity. And so she'd like you to sort of address, do you agree? And do you believe programs like this one can help sort of reduce that tendency and promote creativity within the school context?
Sure. So, you know, the way education in the United States at least has gone is that we focus more on convergent thinking than divergent thinking. So I believe very strongly that introducing arts in the way we're doing here in this project is critically important, because as you look at leaders in the world, they're not convergent thinkers, they're divergent thinkers. And if we continue to do what we've been doing by focusing on the narrow one answer kind of solution, we're not going to be building the kind of leaders we want in the 21st century.
Yeah, we followed in Foundation a quite interesting debate about the verb to use for creativity in the center. At the beginning we used develop, let's develop the creativity. Then we found ourselves more comfortable with awakening creativity, but then it's unblocking creativity. And I think it's not only the school who blocks it, we are all of us. No, I can remember my child choosing some shoes, and my wife and I telling him, "These are very ugly. Don't choose these ones." we are blocking their capacity of thinking in another way. No, so let's unblock it. It's there, and I think there are studies. Mark, you should know much more, or Peter, I'm sure, about how creativity goes down as you go up in the school and as you grow up.
One of the great things about emotional intelligence, on the other hand, is our data suggests that as you age, as you get older, it actually goes up.
Yeah.
So here you have this paradox, right, where it seems like as you get older you're less and less encouraged to be creative, as you say, and yet you have more capacity to be creative because you're more knowledgeable about your emotions and about the information that the emotions are conveying to you. And so how do we get this back on track?
It's an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity.
Very much so.
It's an opportunity.
Gentlemen, we'll take another from Javier at El Mundo Cantabria. He's interested in having you elaborate a little bit on whether emotion leads to creativity, or if it's sort of the other way around. That is, that the creativity will foster.
Yes, nothing is one directional in our work, you know, so we think of things influencing one another. But the direction that we're taking for this project is to look at how emotion states, for example, help to generate creativity. So Inigo was saying a minute ago about music and arts, and you know, I'm remembering a project that we did in a school system where we put children into different mood states, and then we had them go into different rooms and they had to create a project. And what you noticed was that the students who were in the room where they were playing very sad type of music, they drew something that looked very sort of depressing and low energy and sad. And the students who were in that high energy room, in the yellow room we call it, drew something that was much more bright and expressive. So, you know, but you have to be put into this experience, and then you have these kids come back together and they can see, wow, like you were feeling that way and you did that, and you were feeling that way and you did that. And that, I believe, does open up people's eyes to being more creative.
One of the things that, in a way, our culture leads us to believe is that somehow our emotions, our feelings are kind of noise, are kind of background noise, and it's best to ignore them. But in fact, one of the things that our moods, our emotions provide us is a change in mindset, a change in our perspective. The world looks differently to us when we're in one mood versus another. And in a way, that's the key to creativity. It's one of the keys to creativity. How do I think about something, look at something, consider something from multiple points of view, from a new perspective? And so if we can actually harness those natural changes in our moods and emotions as ways of looking at something through different lenses, it might be, that process might be the key to becoming more creative.
I think if you think about being creative, I'm not an expert, no, it's a personal experience. No? The first thing is to dare to be creative. After that, then you have the capacities that you can have, whatever, it depends on your situation, but daring to be...
You have to be willing.
You have to be willing to first to will and to dare, because there is the possibility of succeeding or not. No, so daring or not depends much more in your mood, what you know, or your knowledge, your whatever. No, I think it's quite evident.
And no, a lot of it has to do with the types of questions that we ask kids to think about, right? If we ask them to solve a problem that has one answer, how can you be creative about that? But by giving kids opportunities to look at art and do activities that require them to come up with multiple responses.
To give them the possibility of being creative. Yeah.
Speaking of kids, we have a question from Maru at AFA Cantabria, and who asks, and this is probably for Inigo, is the Botín Foundation considering expanding the age range of the folks involved in the program?
Sure. I mean, now we are doing this in more, I don't know, in a natural way, mixing arts with education. But in the center, we want to bring into the center like a magic box for creativity, young people, children. We even committed the foundation. Our chairman Emilio Botin did it last year. Every school in Cantabria is going to be able to use the center at least one day of the year, because we have many schools, but also for adults, for business people, for doctors, for politicians, if they want, no? Whoever wants to come and to experience art, to become more creative in their lives. And I think this is something that we really need. Someone from a Spanish newspaper was asking me this morning, and I couldn't explain why creativity is important, because I see it's evident. We need to find new ways to do new things, no? In not only children.
Yeah.
Guillermo at El Diario Montañez asks, and any of you can address this question really, what do you consider the most innovative aspects of this particular program that you're doing together?
Go ahead. I want you to say it. Well, I can also say
I think my colleague Zorana Ivcevic, who is really going to be the manager of this project, is an expert on creativity. And what we're working on is really, together with the foundation, is this model of how, a theoretical model for how emotions, creativity, and art all work together, and doing empirical investigations with adults and children to test these models. So to us, that's really the big piece of this, is really understanding the theories and how emotions drive creativity, how arts drive creativity, and how arts, emotions, and creativity work together.
Briefly, how would I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
please.
I was, in a more general way, I would say that using art is innovative.
Mm-hmm.
The Botin Center is going to be an art center. Everything is going to go around the arts. Art is going to be in the heart of the center. It's mainly an art center, but it's going to use arts. And this that looks just a slight difference is very important. Arts are a mean for the development of the people. We are going to focus on creativity, but at the end, is that the objective of the arts are Renzo Piano. The project is done by Renzo Piano, the architect, and art makes people better people. This is the claim of the center. No, that would be. I remember Renzo saying once that the Botin Center should be a tam-tam, sending a message from Santander to the jungle of the contemporary art. This is the message. Art makes people better people. No?
Javier, again, he's asking if, gentlemen, are there specific results that you have from your research that suggest the benefits of developing emotions for society?
Well, the kinds of studies that we've done so far have been more of a psychological nature, but what we do know, for example, is that developing these emotional skills in adults, for example, makes them better leaders in their workplace, better able to work together in a collaborative way, to cooperate, to problem solve in a group context, better able to interact with a stranger, somebody new, somebody they're meeting for the first time. For kids in schools, we know it makes them like school better, be more attentive, learn better, interact with teachers more effectively. So I think all of these interpersonal outcomes that I just summarized, reaching out to strangers, cooperating, working in groups, solving social problems, learning better in a classroom. It strikes me that those are kind of the building blocks to better society, to positive social change, right? To at least at the individual level, to a kind of world that we would all like to live in. And so in that sense, while we haven't done the studies that show that our work on emotional intelligence changes culture, those are big links, hard to make. I think we have done the work to show that developing these emotional skills links to the behaviors that when collected together in a society lead to a change in culture.
Although, as you think about it, we've done our most recent research, while we can't look at the culture of a town or a country, we've actually been able to shift the culture of classrooms and schools.
Absolutely.
So we're going from the micro to macro.
Yeah. That's one of the things that's so exciting about this project to Yale and to our laboratory, because it's really a chance to move in a much more macro direction than we have in the past, to really get out of the classroom and get out of the laboratory and be in a world-class cultural center.
And also to bring it again to the classroom. I mean, we cannot be just something strange, no?
Of course.
I think I think it's happening something in the schools, in the educational system, in the whole world, no? Now we know, thanks to Peter and others, that there are different kind of intelligences. We cannot stay just teaching what we were taught when we went to the school. We all know that our fellows, the ones who had better records, are not necessarily the ones who had more success in their professional life, in their personal life, with their kids, whatever. No, let's develop this new intelligence that we know that we have. No?
Well, in the past, people were scolded for being creative.
Yeah,
right. You were in trouble for not sticking with the group.
Maru at AFA asks again if you think that this will be part of a series of collaborations between the foundation and the university.
Sorry, say that again?
Is this part of a series of collaborations?
Well, I think this is a big collaboration itself.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a 3-year collaboration. Now we're going to begin the theoretical part, and then we're going to prove, we're going to go and test what happens. It doesn't end the collaboration before opening the center. It will go on when the center is already open. This is very important.
Right, so part of our work is to not only work together to build these theoretical models and understand the work, but once the center is open, we'll be using the activities in the center and testing the impact of those on people.
That's it.
And at this point, do you imagine, and this is from Guillermo at El Diario, whether other institutions will join the collaboration, or and of course a little bit about who will be running the center in Spain?
Yeah, just a quick note on the emotional intelligence side of this. You know, we now have a network of collaborators all over the world, very heavily represented in Spain, actually. And over time, I could imagine those collaborators joining with us on this project. We already have a team in place, but it's such a rich network of psychologists primarily working on emotional intelligence that we want to take advantage of them.
And I think we also have to bring into the project the people knowing about the arts, not from the psychological point of view, but people knowing what's happening in theater, in dance, in music. We are going to organize a summer course this year in Santander. We're going to bring together experts in social and emotional intelligence with experts in art to see how we can use them. I'm sorry to do that. No, the question about the manager of the center is a question that has been done lots of times in Santander, and I think this is the perfect moment to say, that taking into account that this is an art center and this is the main thing, but that we are going to use this. The center has 3 aims: local, global, because it's the art center; local, because it's the new meeting point from Santander; and then social, because it's going to use arts. No, so it's going to be this is like an announcement in Santander. It's going to be Fatima Sanchez. She's the actual who runs the. Mark and Peter know her, know the educational program in the foundation for the last 10 years. She's now at the Tate Modern. She has been spending 6 months there learning and also giving them our expertise in social and emotional intelligence. And she will be back, and in some weeks she will be starting to manage the center. We are going to look, and we already started a professional search international for an artistic director, because someone has to help the commission, the art commission led by Vicente Todolí, the ex-director of the Tate Modern, for the art program, but Fatima is going to be the, let's say, the executive manager of the center.
Excellent. Gentlemen, we've got just about a minute or so left. Any closing thoughts that any of you'd like to make? Go for it.
I'm just very, very appreciative, really, on behalf of Yale University for this collaboration and others that involve the Foundation and Banco Santander, because our university is enriched by it, and we, of course, hope the world will be enriched by it. We are very optimistic about this kind of work, and just honored and delighted to be a partner with you in it.
And for us, President-elected, as you can imagine, it's also an honor, to be able to collaborate with one of the main educational institutions in the world, to give scientific strength to what was just an intuition, and it is already a conviction.
Right.
Yeah, and I feel the same. I echo your comments and just say that we've always been a lab, now center, that focuses on the application of science.
Yeah, it's going to be an
and
exciting
this is a great opportunity
adventure
for us.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us today,
Thank
and
you.
thanks to all of you for your questions and for watching. Take care. Join us again in the future. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.